Ray's weathered hands trembled with fury as he stepped between three privileged boys and their cornered prey, his janitor's uniform a stark reminder of his powerlessness in their world. The CEO mother's job offer the next day didn't just quadruple his income, it catapulted both families into a dangerous game where old money, corporate espionage, and two teenagers' futures hung in precarious balance. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment where in the world you're watching from. Let's go. The corridor fell silent as Ray Donovan stepped between the boys, his weathered face hardened, blue janitor uniform a stark contrast against the polished school lockers. At 52, Ray wasn't imposing by traditional standards, his salt and pepper hair thinning, shoulders slightly stooped from years of manual labor, but something in his steady gaze made even the most defiant teenagers think twice. "That's enough," he said, voice low but carrying the unmistakable weight of someone who didn't need to shout to be heard. The three older boys, varsity jackets, expensive watches, shifted uncomfortably. Their ringleader, Tyler Westfield, attempted a dismissive smirk that faltered under Ray's unwavering stare. "Just having some fun, Mr. D," Tyler muttered, hands dropping from where they'd been pinning a smaller boy against the lockers. The smaller boy, slight build, expensive uniform slightly rumpled, glasses askew, straightened his blazer with trembling hands. His eyes darted between Ray and his tormentors, relief battling with embarrassment. "Fun looks different from where I'm standing," Ray replied, placing his mop against the wall. "Principal Bennett's office is still open. I'd be happy to walk you all down there to explain your version of fun." A tense moment passed before Tyler stepped back, hands raised in mock surrender. "Whatever. Come on, guys." The trio retreated down the hallway, Tyler's parting glare promising this wasn't over. When they disappeared around the corner, Ray turned to the boy who was gathering scattered papers from the floor. "You all right, kid?" "Yes, sir. Thank you." The boy's voice was quiet but carried the precise diction of expensive education. He straightened, adjusting his glasses. "Fine," Ray nodded, retrieving a fallen textbook. "Advanced physics. College level. They bother you often?" The boy hesitated, then shrugged. "Just the usual new kid treatment. I transferred in mid-semester." Ray studied him more carefully. Despite the expensive uniform of Westridge Academy, where annual tuition exceeded what Ray earned in a year there, was something distinctly unentitled about this kid, a wariness in his eyes that spoke of someone used to navigating difficult situations alone. "I'm Ray Donovan." "Alexander Palmer," the boy replied, then added almost apologetically, "But everyone calls me Alex." Ray returned to his mop, resuming his work. "Well, Alex, those boys are waiting around the science wing. Take the east stairwell instead. It'll get you to the front entrance without running into them." Alex looked surprised. "How did you been watching those three for weeks?" Ray explained, wringing out his mop. "They've got a pattern." "And patterns are easy to spot when nobody notices you're watching." Alex nodded slowly, like respect flickering across his features. "Thank you, Mr. Donovan. Just Ray is fine." Alex gathered his belongings and headed toward the east stairwell as suggested, pausing briefly. "See you tomorrow, Ray." After the boy left, Ray continued his methodical cleaning of the corridor, mind drifting to his own son, Mason. At 14, Mason was navigating his first year of public high schooler, whirled away from Westridge Academy, with its manicured lawns and state-of-the-art facilities. Ray checked his watch. If he finished this wing in the next hour, he could make it to Mason's basketball practice before heading to his second job. 2 jobs, 6 days a week. That was Ray's reality since Angela's death 3 years ago, cancer that moved too quickly for their modest insurance to keep up with. The medical bills had taken everything, forcing them from their small suburban home into a 2-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood Ray had once warned Mason to avoid. Ray was so absorbed in his thoughts he almost missed the sound of heels clicking purposefully down the empty corridor. He looked up to see a woman approaching, tall, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that even Ray could tell cost more than his monthly rent. Her dark hair was swept into a precise updo, her expression unreadable behind designer glasses. "Excuse me," she said, her tone polite but expectant, the voice of someone used to immediate attention. "I'm looking for my son, Alexander. And the front office said he might still be in this building." Ray straightened, suddenly aware of his worn uniform and the faint bleach stains on his hands. "He left about 10 minutes ago, ma'am." Headed toward the main entrance. The woman frowned slightly, checking her watch. "That's odd. He's not answering his phone, and we were supposed to meet outside." A flicker of concern crossed Ray's face. "There were some boys giving him trouble earlier. I pointed him toward the east stairwell to avoid them, but ... single quotes, her expression sharpened. "Boys? What boys?" "3 seniors. The one in charge is named Tyler Westfield." "Westfield," she repeated, a flash of recognition in her eyes. "As in board member Richard Westfield's son?" Ray shrugged. "I wouldn't know about that, ma'am. But they've been targeting your son since he arrived." The woman's posture shifted subtly, a coiled tension replacing her professional composure. "And the school has done nothing?" "Hard to do something when the boy won't report it," Ray said. "And when the perpetrator's parents donate new buildings." She removed her glasses, revealing eyes that matched her son's intelligent, assessing, and currently cold with anger. "I see. And, you are Ray Donovan, night janitor? Catherine Palmer?" she replied, extending her hand automatically. Her grip was firm, businesslike. "CEO of Palmer Innovations." Ray recognized the name, a technology company that had been in the news recently for some breakthrough medical device, far removed from his world of mop buckets and minimum wage. "Thank you for helping my son, Mr. Donovan. Alex has had ... difficulty adjusting since his father and I separated. He wasn't happy about changing school." Ray nodded, unsure what response was expected. In his experience, the wealthy rarely shared personal details with maintenance staff. Catherine glanced down the hallway, something vulnerable briefly crossing her face. "He used to talk to me, you know. Now it's like living with a polite stranger." Before Ray could respond, her phone buzzed. She checked it, relief visible in her expression. "He's waiting at the car. I should go." She replaced her professional mask, nodding briskly. "Thank you again, Mr. Donovan." Ray watched her walk away, heels clicking rhythmically on the polished floor. Two parents from opposite worlds, both worried about their sons, though Catherine Palmer's concerns came with a safety net of privilege Ray could barely imagine. He returned to his work, mind already calculating whether he could pick up an extra shift this weekend to cover Mason's basketball shoes, which were falling apart at the seams. The next day, Ray was surprised to find Alex waiting by his supply closet after final bell. "You hiding or waiting?" Ray asked, unlocking the door. "Waiting," Alex replied. "I wanted to thank you properly for yesterday." Ray shrugged, pulling out his cleaning cart. "Just did what anyone would do." "That's not true," Alex said quietly. "3 teachers walked past while Tyler had me pinned. They saw. They just didn't want to get involved." Ray paused, meeting the boy's eyes. There was that wariness again, the look of someone who'd learned early that adults couldn't always be counted on. "My mom says you told her about the bullying," Alex continued, expression unreadable. "She's meeting with the headmaster tomorrow. Sorry if that complicates things for you," Ray offered, genuinely concerned. In his experience, adult intervention often made bullying worse. Alex shook his head. "It's fine, Mom's effective when she wants something fixed." He hesitated, then added, "She asked about you. Nothing to tell." Ray replied, uncomfortable with the scrutiny. Alex looked like he wanted to say more, but instead just nodded. "Well, anyway, thanks." He turned to leave, then paused. "My mom's always saying I need to get better at recognizing the right people to have in my corner. I think you might be one of the good ones, Ray." As the boy walked away, Ray felt an unexpected warmth at the simple acknowledgement, not just of his action, but of his visibility in a place where he was professionally designed to be invisible. The feeling stayed with him through his shift, through the nighttime quiet of empty classrooms and hollow corridors. It was still there as he locked up his closet and headed toward his second job, wondering what kind of meeting a CEO mother might have with a headmaster, and what changes might ripple through these hallways as a result. What Ray couldn't have known as he clocked out that evening was that Catherine Palmer was already setting in motion events that would collide their separate worlds in ways neither of them could anticipate. 2 days after Catherine Palmer's visit, Ray noticed the change immediately. The headmaster himself escorted Tyler Westfield and his cronies through the hallways, speaking in hushed, stern tones. By lunchtime, the student body buzzed with rumors. 3 seniors suspended for a week, varsity basketball spots in jeopardy, college recommendation letters potentially withdrawn. For Ray, watching from the periphery as he emptied trash bins, it was like witnessing a small earthquake reshaping the landscape of Westridge Academy. The privileged rarely faced consequences here. Quite the development, wouldn't you say? Ray turned to find Merce Abernathy, the elderly English teacher who occasionally acknowledged his existence. Unlike most faculty. "Been a long time coming," Ray replied cautiously. Merce Abernathy nodded. "Apparently Catherine Palmer threatened to withdraw not only her son but her company's substantial technology endowment if the bullying wasn't addressed." She lowered her voice. "Board members were called in the middle of dinner parties last night. Headmaster Phillips looked positively green this morning." Ray suppressed a smile. Catherine Palmer was indeed effective, as Alex had put it. "The Westfields won't take this quietly," Mrs. Abernathy added. "Richard Westfield has been on the board since dinosaurs roamed the earth, but Palmer Innovations just received FDA approval for their neural interface device. The school would rather lose a legacy family than the Palmer fortune." She patted Ray's arm. "Your bathroom cleaning can wait. There's fresh coffee in the teacher's lounge if you'd like some." It was the first such invitation in Ray's 2 years at Westridge. Later that afternoon, Ray was fixing a flickering light in the east corridor when Alex approached, shoulders straighter than Ray had seen them before. "How's it going?" Ray asked, climbing down from his ladder. "Different," Alex admitted. "Tyler's crowd is keeping their distance. For now." Ray nodded. "Your mother's meeting was effective. Mom doesn't do ineffective," Alex said with a hint of pride mixed with something else, embarrassment. "But I'm worried about the blowback. Tyler's dad is apparently furious." "Let them be furious," Ray replied, packing up his tools. "Better than you being hurt." Alex shrugged, leaning against the lockers. "Handled worse. At my old school before the divorce, ... single quotes," he trailed off. Anyway, it's fine. I just wish Mom hadn't made such a scene." Ray studied the boy. "Sometimes adults need to step in, even when kids think they can handle it. Is that your professional dad opinion?" Alex asked with the first genuine smile Ray had seen from him. "Something like that. Got a 14-year-old who thinks he's invincible too." "Really? What's his name?" "Mason. Starting high school this year." Alex nodded. "Cool. What's he into?" The simple question caught Ray off guard. People rarely asked about his personal life, especially at Westridge. Basketball mostly, though lately it's video games and girls. Not necessarily in that order. Alex laughed. Sounds normal. Does he go to Westridge too? Ray couldn't help his short, surprised laugh. On my salary? Not a chance. He's at Eastside Public. Alex looked genuinely puzzled. But don't you get a tuition discount as staff? Maintenance contractors don't qualify for benefits, Ray explained. We're through Stellar Services, not direct hires. Understanding dawned on Alex's face, another glimpse into a world different from his own. That doesn't seem fair. Life rarely is, Ray said simply, without bitterness. It was just a fact, like gravity or the weather. An awkward silence fell between them, the gulf of their different worlds suddenly apparent. Alex shifted uncomfortably. I should go. Debate team practice. Ray nodded, returning to his tools. As Alex walked away, Ray found himself wondering what it would be like for Mason to attend a school like Westridge, with its robotics lab and Olympic-sized swimming pool, its college counselors and connections to prestigious universities. That night, Ray arrived home at 11:30 p.m. after his second job stocking shelves at a local grocery store. Their apartment was small but clean, decorated with Mason's basketball trophies and photographs of happier times with Angela. He found Mason asleep on the couch, basketball highlights still playing on their secondhand TV. Homework spread across the coffee table. Ray gently shook his son's shoulder. Champ, bedtime. Mason blinked awake, hair tousled. Dad, what time is it? Late. You finish your algebra? Mason nodded sleepily. Coach said I'm starting in Friday's game. That's great, Ray said, genuine pride warming his voice despite his exhaustion. I'll try to get there for the second half after my shift. Mason's face fell slightly before he masked it with a shrug. It's cool if you can't. No big deal. But it was a big deal and they both knew it. Ray had missed 3 games already this season. I'll be there, Ray promised, helping Mason gather his books. Even if I have to quit one of my jobs. Mason managed a tired smile. Don't be dramatic, Dad. We need to eat. The casual acceptance in his son's voice, the adult understanding of financial realities no 14-year-old should have to shoulder made Ray's chest ache. How about pancakes for breakfast tomorrow? Ray offered, wanting to give his son something, anything to look forward to. You'll be awake? Mason asked, surprised. I'll set my alarm early. As Mason shuffled off to bed, Ray sank onto the couch, bone-tired in a way that transcended physical exhaustion. He thought of Alex Palmer with his advanced physics textbook and debate team, and the mother who wielded enough influence to make an entire school administration scramble. Mason was every bit as bright, every bit as deserving, but potential meant little without opportunity, and opportunity was increasingly tied to privilege. Ray closed his eyes for what felt like seconds but must have been hours, because suddenly his 5 a.m. alarm was blaring. Pancake promised to keep. The following day at Westridge, Ray was summoned to the administrative wing, an unprecedented occurrence. The secretary led him to a waiting area outside Headmaster Phillips' office where Catherine Palmer sat reviewing documents on a tablet. She looked up, recognition flickering in her eyes. Mr. Donovan, Miss Palmer. Ray nodded, suddenly conscious of his worn uniform. Before they could exchange another word, the headmaster's door opened, and Phillips emerged, a tall, thin man with permanent worry lines. Miss Palmer, I've spoken with the board, and they've approved your proposal for the technology mentorship program. They're quite excited about the potential partnership with Palmer Labs. His eyes darted to Ray. Donovan, thank you for coming. The maintenance situation in the science wing, actually. Catherine interrupted smoothly. I asked to speak with Mr. Donovan privately after your meeting about a separate matter. Phillips blinked in surprise. Of course, you can use my office. I'll just get some coffee. As Phillips retreated, Catherine turned to Ray. Would you mind? It won't take long. Confused but curious, Ray followed her into the headmaster's office, feeling distinctly out of place among the leather-bound books and mahogany furniture. Catherine closed the door and took a seat, gesturing for Ray to do the same. Alex tells me you're quite observant, that you notice patterns others miss. Ray shifted uncomfortably. Just doing my job, ma'am. And intervening when teachers wouldn't, she added pointedly. That's not in your job description, is it? Catherine studied him with the same analytical gaze Alex sometimes had. Alex has mentioned you several times since the incident. He doesn't easily trust adults, Mr. Donovan. Ray remained silent, unsure where this was heading. I've been asking about you, she continued matter-of-factly. You've worked here 2 years. Never missed a shift. Before that, hospital custodial services for 5 years. You're raising a son alone. Your wife passed away from cancer. Ray stiffened. You've been investigating me? I've researched anything that affects my son, she replied unapologetically. Alex feels safe around you. That matters to me. Ray nodded slowly, still wary. The headmaster tells me you're not actually employed by Westridge, but through a contractor, Stellar Services. They pay you minimum wage with no benefits, while charging the school a premium. That's how contracting works, Ray said simply. Catherine leaned forward. What if I told you I'm looking for someone with your observational skills and work ethic for a position at Palmer Innovations? Our security department needs people who notice what others miss. The salary would be considerably more than what you're making now with full benefits. Ray stared at her, certain he'd misheard. You're offering me a job? You don't even know me. I know enough, Catherine replied. You showed integrity when it wasn't required. You noticed my son was in danger when others looked away. Those qualities are rare and valuable. She slid a business card across the desk. This is my direct number. Think about it. Ray took the card automatically, mind reeling. Why? He finally asked. Why me? Catherine's professional facade softened slightly. Because Alex trusts you. Because you did the right thing without expecting anything in return. She paused. And because I recognize someone who's working twice as hard as they should have to. I've been there, Mr. Donovan. Not everyone has. Ray looked down at the card, then back at Catherine Palmer, a CEO, offering a janitor a lifeline based on a single act of decency. It felt surreal, like a plot from one of Mason's favorite movies. I should get back to work, he said, rising slowly, the business card await in his pocket. But thank you. I'll think about it. Catherine nodded, her expression unreadable again. It's all I ask. As Ray left the headmaster's office, mind spinning with possibilities, he nearly collided with Alex in the hallway. Everything okay? Alex asked, glancing between Ray and the administrative offices. Ray managed to nod, still processing. Your mom is unexpected. Alex grinned. You have no idea. Ray sat in his rusted pickup truck long after his shift ended, Catherine Palmer's business card between his fingers. The glossy cardstock felt out of place against his calloused skin, like everything about this situation. Security specialist at Palmer Innovation. The words tumbled around his mind, possibility so unexpected he hardly knew how to process it. His phone buzzed with a text from his second job. Asterisk, you coming in tonight, Donovan? Jenkins called out sick. Asterisk, more hours meant more money. More money meant maybe catching up on the electric bill that was 2 weeks past due. Asterisk, on my way. Asterisk, he typed back, tucking Catherine's card into his wallet and starting the truck. By the time Ray finally made it home, it was after midnight. He found Mason still awake, hunched over his laptop at the kitchen table. School night, Ray reminded him, setting down his lunchbox. Science project, Mason replied without looking up. Due tomorrow. Ray peered over his son's shoulder at a half-completed presentation about renewable energy. Why didn't you start this earlier? Basketball practice ran late. Then coach wanted to talk about scholarships. Ray perked up at this. Scholarships? Mason finally looked up, dark circles under his eyes betraying his exhaustion. Yeah. He thinks I have a shot at some sports scholarships if I keep my grades up. But I need to take the PSATs here and it costs money. How much? Ray asked, mentally reviewing their budget. $52. Plus I need new shoes. These are falling apart. Single quotes. Mason gestured to his worn basketball shoes by the door, the sole peeling away from the upper. Ray sank into a chair, fatigue settling into his bones. We'll figure it out. Mason studied his father's face. You look beat, Dad. I'm fine, Ray insisted, though his eyes burned from exhaustion. You said that yesterday when you fell asleep eating dinner. Ray managed a tired smile. Caught me, but I'll be at your game Friday, I promise. Mason nodded, but the doubt in his eyes was clear. He'd heard this promise before. Actually, Ray said, reaching for his wallet. Something happened today. He pulled out Catherine Palmer's business card and set it on the table between them. I got a job off. Mason picked up the card. Eyebrows rise. Palmer Innovations? The tech company? Dad, what did you do? Remember that kid I told you about? The one being bullied? His mom is Catherine Palmer. Mason's eyes widened. Wait, asterisk, the asterisk Catherine Palmer? The one who's always on the business channel? Ray nodded, surprised his son recognized the name. We did a project on her last semester, Mason explained. She's like crazy smart. Forbes Businesswoman of the Year 2 years running. What job did she offer you? Security specialist, Ray said, still finding the title strange on his tongue. Said she liked that I notice patterns others miss. You're taking it, right? Mason asked, suddenly animated. Has to pay better than mopping floors and stocking shelves. It's not that simple, Maze. Why not? Ray ran a hand over his face. How could he explain his hesitation? That he'd spent the past 3 years carefully constructing a life of absolute stability for Mason after Angela's death had upended everything. That his current jobs, grueling as they were predictable, secure in their limited way. It would mean changes, Ray finally said. Big ones. Mason looked around their small apartment, gaze lingering on the water stain in the ceiling corner, the secondhand furniture, the pile of bills on the counter. Maybe change would be good, he said quietly. The simple statement hung in the air between them. Ray had been so focused on providing stability that he hadn't considered Mason might need something different. Let me think about it, Ray promised. Now finish your project. 20 more minutes. Then bed. As Mason returned to his laptop, Ray pulled out his phone and did something he'd been avoiding all evening. He searched for Palmer Innovations. Article after article detailed the company's rapid growth, its groundbreaking neural interface technology, its founder's reputation for demanding excellence. Catherine Palmer had built a billion-dollar company from scratch in less than a decade. People like her didn't casually offer jobs to janitors without expecting something in return. What did she really want from him? The next morning, Ray arrived at Westridge earlier than usual, needing the quiet to think. To his surprise, he found Alex sitting alone on a bench near the east entrance reading a thick book. School doesn't open for another hour, Ray noted, unlocking the maintenance door. Alex shrugged. Mom had an early meeting. Driver dropped me off. Ray hesitated, then held the door open wider. Want to come in? It's cold out here. Alex followed him into the warm building. As Ray prepared his cleaning cart, Alex perched on a nearby stool, watching with curiosity. My mom offered you a job, didn't she? Alex finally asked. Ray paused. How'd you know? She asked a lot of questions about you after the incident. Then yesterday she had that meeting with the headmaster and wanted to see you. Alex adjusted his glasses. She doesn't waste time when she decides something. And what exactly did she decide about me? Alex considered this. That you're trustworthy. That you act instead of just watching. Those are big things for her. Single quotes. He paused. Are you going to take it? Ray resumed filling his bucket. Still thinking about it, it would be a good job, Alex offered. Mom pays well and the company has great benefits. My friend Jacob's dad works in R&D there. They got a company apartment in the Palmer Residence Tower. Ray nearly dropped the soap dispenser. Company housing? Alex nodded. For key employees. The tower's right next to headquarters so people can walk to work. Saves commuting time. Single quotes. The possibility of eliminating his hour-long bus commute. Of living somewhere safe where Mason could thrive. It was almost too much to imagine. Your mom didn't mention housing, Ray said carefully. She wouldn't, Alex replied. Mom believes in earning things step by step, but I bet if you do well, you'd qualify eventually. Ray studied the boy, realizing how much Alex resembled Catherine in these moments, analytical, matter-of-fact, seeing connections others might miss. Can I ask you something, Alex? Sure. Why would your mother offer a job to someone she barely knows? Alex considered this, his expression thoughtful. Mom believes first impressions tell you everything important about a person. She says you can teach skills but not character. He paused. Also, she's been worried about security gaps at the company. One of our competitors had a breach last month. Someone walked right into their labs by following an employee through a door. The practical explanation made sense, yet Ray still felt there was more to Catherine's offer than simple recruitment. Your mom's an interesting person, Ray said neutrally. Alex's face softened. She's intense. Always has been. But she's fair. He hesitated. Since the divorce, she works even more than before. I think it's her way of coping. The glimpse into their family dynamics surprised Ray. Despite their wealth and status, the Palmers faced their own struggles, different from his, but struggles nonetheless. Anyway, Alex continued, checking his watch. Students will start arriving soon. I should go to the library. He slid off the stool. But Mr. Donovan, if my opinion matters, I think you should take the job. Mom's good at seeing potential. After Alex left, Ray found himself thinking about potential, his own Mason's. The potential of a different life than the one they'd been barely surviving these past 3 years. That evening, instead of heading to his second job, Ray called in sick for the first time in 2 years. Quote, he drove to Mason's basketball practice and watched from the bleachers as his son ran drills with his team. Mason's talent was obvious, his movements fluid and precise, his focus intense. Several times, Coach Winters pulled him aside for one-on-one instruction, demonstrating techniques that Mason quickly absorbed. After practice, Coach noticed Ray and approached the bleachers while the boys hit the showers. Mr. Donovan, good to finally meet you, Winters said, extending his hand. Been hoping to catch you at a game. Working on that, Ray replied, shaking the offered hand. Mason mentioned you talked about scholarships. Winters nodded, his expression serious. Your son has real potential, Division I potential, with the right development, but he needs structured training. Summer camps, exposure to college scouts. He hesitated, all of which costs money, I know. But there are programs that can help. What kind of programs? Community sponsorships, training scholarships? I've put Mason's name forward for a few. Winters lowered his voice. Thing is, Mr. Donovan, talent isn't enough anymore. These kids are competing against players with private coaches, nutritionists, video analysis of their games. The gap between potential and opportunity is widening every year. Ray absorbed this, thinking of Catherine Palmer's words from the day before. Asterisk, I recognize someone who's working twice as hard as they should have to. Asterisk, I appreciate you looking out for him, Ray said sincerely. Mason's a good kid, works harder than players with twice his resources. Winters checked his clipboard. Teams playing in the Preston Invitational next month. College scouts always. It would be huge for Mason to participate. What's the cost? Ray asked, bracing himself. $300 for registration plus hotel for 2 nights. Ray nodded, keeping his expression neutral despite the sinking feeling in his stomach. $300 might as well be $3,000 in their current situation. Mason emerged from the locker room, surprise and delight crossing his face when he spotted Ray. Dad, you made it. Told you I would, Ray said, standing to embrace his son. You looked great out there. As they walked to the truck, Mason's excitement was palpable. Coach says I might start at point guard next game. Did he tell you about the Preston tournament? He mentioned it, Ray said carefully. It's a huge opportunity, Dad. Big schools send scouts. Mason's voice held a cautious hope. Coach thinks I could get noticed if I play well. Ray thought of Catherine Palmer's business card still in his wallet. The security position would certainly pay enough to cover tournament fees, new shoes, maybe even SAT prep class, but it would mean walking away from the careful, if limited, stability he'd built. That night after Mason went to bed, Ray sat at their small kitchen table and finally dialed the number on Catherine's card. It rang 3 times before she answered. Catherine Palmer, Ms. Palmer, this is Ray Donovan. About your job offer, I'd like to learn more. There was a brief pause. I'm glad you called, Mr. Donovan. Can you come to Palmer Tower tomorrow at 10 a.m. for a proper interview? Ray thought of his Westridge shift, of the repercussions of missing work. Yes, he said firmly. I'll be there. As he hung up, Ray felt something he hadn't experienced in years. The terrifying, exhilarating sensation of taking a leap without knowing where he might land. Palmer Tower dominated the city skyline, 68 stories of glass and steel rising like a monolith from the urban landscape. Ray had passed it countless times on his bus route to Westridge, never imagining he'd step inside, let alone for a job interview. He'd called Stellar Services that morning to report a family emergency, knowing he was risking his position at Westridge. For the first time in years, the possibility didn't terrify him. The lobby alone was larger than his entire apartment building, all polished marble and soaring ceiling. A massive sculpture of intertwined metal ribbons meant to represent neural pathways, according to the plaque, dominated the center. Security guards in crisp black uniforms monitored sleek turnstiles where employees scanned badges. Ray approached the reception desk, suddenly conscious of his best shirt, a button-down from 3 years ago, slightly faded at the collar. "I have an appointment with Catherine Palmer," he said, his voice sounding too loud in the hushed space. "Ray Donovan." The receptionist didn't bat an eye. "One moment, Mr. Donovan." She tapped at her screen, then looked up with a practiced smile. "Ms. Palmer's assistant will be down shortly to escort you. Please have a seat." Ray waited in a sleek leather chair that probably cost more than his monthly rent, watching as elegantly dressed professionals moved through the space with purpose. They all appeared to share a certain quality, a confidence that bordered on intensity, a focused energy that radiated from their quick strides and alert eyes. "Mr. Donovan?" Ray looked up to see a young woman with a tablet and an earpiece. "I'm Eliza, Ms. A. Palmer's executive assistant. Please follow me." The elevator ascended swiftly to the 65th floor. As they stepped out, Ray noticed there were no cubicles, no traditional office layout, just a series of glass-walled meeting rooms and collaborative spaces populated by people in deep discussion around digital displays. "Palmer Innovations occupies the top 8 floors, Eliza explained, leading him down a corridor. "Research and development is 3 floors below us. Legal and finance are on 62 and 63. She swiped her badge at a door mark. "Executive suite. Ms. Palmer is finishing a video conference. She'll be with you shortly." The waiting area outside Catherine's office offered a panoramic view of the city. Ray could see Westridge Academy in the distance, its ivy-covered buildings and manicured quad like a miniature from this height. After 10 minutes, the office door opened and Catherine Palmer emerged, speaking rapidly to a man in a lab coat. "Need those test results by Friday, Dr. Chun, not next week. The FDA won't wait, and neither will our competitors." Her tone was firm but not unkind. "You have the resources you asked for. Make it happen, Doctor." Chun nodded and hurried away as Catherine turned to Ray with an outstretched hand. "Mr. Donovan, thank you for coming." Up close, Catherine was both more and less intimidating than she'd appeared at Westridge. Her outfit was impeccably tailored, her posture straight-backed and confident, but there were faint shadows under her eyes that spoke of long hours and heavy responsibility. "Please come in," she said, leading him into her office. Unlike the cold, sterile aesthetic Ray had expected, Catherine's space was surprisingly warm. Modern but comfortable, with actual books on shelves and framed photographs on her desk. Most showed Alex at various ages. One captured him grinning beside what appeared to be a science fair project. "Have a seat," Catherine offered, gesturing to a chair across from her desk as she took her own. "I appreciate you coming on short notice. Thank you for the opportunity," Ray replied, trying to project confidence he didn't entirely feel. Catherine studied him briefly. "I imagine you have questions about my offer." "Several," Ray admitted, starting with "Why me?" "You must have access to experienced security professionals with actual credentials." A slight smile crossed her face. "Direct." "I appreciate that." Single quote. She leaned back in her chair. "Palmer Innovations is developing technology that will fundamentally change how neural interfaces function. The market implications are significant. We've had 3 attempted corporate espionage incidents in the past year. And what does that have to do with me? Our head of security can hire trained professionals. What he can't hire is instinct. Single quotes. Catherine tapped a finger on her desk. "You noticed my son was being bullied when faculty members walked past. You identified escape routes and patterns of behavior without formal training. Those are innate skills, Mr. Donovan." Ray shifted uncomfortably. "I'm still a janitor with no security background, which is precisely why you'd see vulnerabilities others miss." Catherine pulled a tablet from her desk. "Tell me what you observe about our lobby security." The question caught Ray off guard. "Excuse me? When you entered the building, what did you notice?" Ray considered the question. "The guards check badges, but not closely enough. They're watching for obvious threats. Someone agitated or suspicious, but 3 people tailgated through the turnstiles while I was waiting, following so closely behind badge holders that the system registered them as one person." Catherine's eyebrows rose slightly. "The reception desk has good sight lines," Ray continued, "but the staff are too focused on their screen. A delivery arrived while I was sitting there, food order for someone upstairs. The courier wasn't checked, just waved through to the service elevator." He hesitated, then added, "And your main doors are 15 feet from the street, not enough distance for security to respond if someone decided to force entry during the morning rush." Catherine set down her tablet, something like satisfaction in her expression. caution. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Trained security personnel follow protocols. They check boxes. You notice the human elements, the patterns, the gaps in the system. Anyone would see those things, Ray said with a shrug. No, they wouldn't, Catherine countered firmly. Most people move through life barely observing their surroundings. It's why Alex was bullied for weeks before you intervene. People see what they expect to see until someone like you points out what they're missing. She opened a folder on her desk, revealing what appeared to be a formal offer letter. The position is security systems analyst. You'd work with our head of security to identify vulnerabilities in both our physical spaces and our personnel protocols. Starting salary is $85,000 annually with full medical, dental, and vision benefits. She slid the folder toward, plus 3 weeks paid vacation and a 401k with company match. Ray stared at the number on the page, momentarily speechless. It was more than triple his current combined income. This can't be real, he finally managed. I assure you it's very real. Catherine's expression remained professional, but her eyes reflected understanding of his shock. Based on performance, there's opportunity for advancement. Many of our employees qualify for subsidized housing in Palmer Residence Tower after their first year. Ray forced himself to think past the numbers. What happens if I fail? If I'm not what you think I am, then we part ways, Catherine said simply. But I rarely misjudge people, Mr. Donovan. Why are you really doing this? Ray asked, the question that had nagged him since her initial offer. Is it just gratitude because I helped Alex? Catherine considered him, then set down her pen. When I started this company, I was a single mother with a brilliant idea and no connection. Every door was closed until one person, my former professor, saw potential where others didn't. He gave me access to lab space for my initial prototypes when no one else would. She gestured to the window, to the empire visible below. All of this exists because someone took a chance on me. Her gaze returned to Ray, direct and uncompromising. I believe in repaying that kind of opportunity forward. It was the most human interaction he'd had with her, a glimpse behind the CEO facade to the woman beneath. Take the weekend to consider, Catherine continued, professional demeanor returning. We can discuss your decision on Monday. As Ray left Palmer Tower, his mind reeled with possibilities. The salary alone would transform their lives. No more choosing between electricity and groceries. No more second job. No more watching Mason outgrow shoes they couldn't replace. He was so distracted, he nearly missed the call from Stellar Services. Donovan, his supervisor, barked when he answered. Got a situation at Westridge. Westfield kid got jumped in the locker room. Headmaster's on the warpath saying school security's compromised. He's demanding all maintenance staff be present for questioning. Ray's stomach dropped. Jumped? Is he okay? Bruised ego mostly. But this is political now. Richard Westfield is on the board, and his kid is claiming unknown assailants somehow breached school security. They're reviewing all badge swipes. All maintenance log. I'm out sick today, Ray reminded him. Yeah, well, you better unsick yourself fast. All hands on deck or don't bother coming back at all. The line went dead. Ray stared at his phone, suddenly faced with an immediate choice: return to Westridge to protect his current job or continue considering Catherine's offer. His thoughts were interrupted by another call, this one from Mason's school. Mr. Donovan, this is Principal Harris from Eastside High. There's been an incident involving Mason. We need you to come in immediately. Is he hurt? Ray demanded, already hailing a taxi. Not physically, no, but he's been suspended for fighting. 20 minutes later, Ray found Mason sitting outside the principal's office, ice pack held against his jaw, expression mutinous. What happened? Ray asked, taking the seat beside him. It's nothing, Mason muttered. A split lip isn't nothing. Mason stared at the floor. Some guys were talking trash. About us. About you. Ray waited, knowing there was more. Said we were charity cases, that I only made varsity because coach feels sorry for it. Mason's voice tightened. Said mom would have been disappointed in what we've become. Ray felt a familiar ache at the mention of Angela. And you hit them for that? No, Mason said, meeting his father's eyes. I hit them when they said you were pathetic, working yourself to death mopping floors because you're too stupid to do better. The principal's door opened before Ray could respond. Mr. Donovan? We're ready for you now. As Ray stood, he squeezed Mason's shoulder. For the record, he said quietly, your mother would be incredibly proud of who you are, and those kids don't know the first thing about us. Principal Harris was a former military man who ran Eastside High with rigid efficiency. His office reflected his personality, orderly Spartan, with achievement plaques arranged in perfect symmetry on the wall behind his desk. Mr. Donovan, he began as Ray took a seat. Mason is one of our brightest students and a valuable asset to our basketball program, but fighting is an automatic 3-day suspension. No exception. Ray nodded. I understand. What exactly happened? Harris consulted his notes. According to witnesses, 3 seniors were making derogatory comments about your family situation. Mason ignored them initially, but when the comments escalated, he threw the first punch. He looked up. 1 against 3 isn't great odds. How much trouble are the other boys in? They've received detention for verbal provocation. We have a zero-tolerance policy for physical violence. Ray frowned. So Mason gets suspended while the instigators get a slap on the wrist? Harris's expression remained neutral. The school board's policy is clear. Physical aggression results in suspension, even when defending one's family against public humiliation. Donovan, would the punishment be the same if Mason's last name were Hendricks or Prescott? Ray asked. naming two wealthy families whose children attended East Side despite living in districts with more prestigious schools. If his father were on the booster committee instead of working maintenance, Harris's jaw tightened. I resent the implication. And I resent my son being suspended for standing up against bullies while the actual instigators walk free. Ray's voice remained calm, but his eyes held an intensity that made Harris shift uncomfortably. Mason was wrong to throw a punch, but if your zero tolerance only applies to certain students, that's not policy, it's prejudice. The principal studied Ray for a long moment. I can reduce the suspension to 1 day given Mason's clean record. That's the best I can offer. It wasn't justice, but it was something. It's fine, but I want those other boys monitored. If they target Mason again, they won't, Harris assured him. Coach Winters has already spoken with them, quite forcefully, I might add. As they left the principal's office, Ray found Coach Winters waiting outside with Mason. Got a minute, Ray? The coach asked, nodding toward an empty classroom. Once inside, Winters closed the door. Those seniors are all benched for the next game. School policy might tie Harris's hands, but team policy is mine to enforce. His expression was grim. Nobody messes with my players. Relief washed through Ray. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Winters handed him an envelope. This is the registration for the Preston Invitational. Deadline's tomorrow. Ray stared at the envelope. Coach, I've arranged a partial scholarship that covers half the fee, but I need the rest by tomorrow or Mason loses his spot. Winters lowered his voice. Scouts from Duke and North Carolina will be there. Ray, this could change everything for him. The weight of opportunity and limitation pressed down on Ray's shoulders. I'll figure it out. As they walked to the truck, Mason remained subdued. Sorry for causing trouble, Dad. You've stood up for us. Hard to fault that. Ray started the engine, though next time maybe use words instead of fists. Would have been 3 against 1 either way, Mason said with a shrug. At least this way they'll think twice before running their mouths again. Ray glanced at his son, nearly a man now, with Angela's determined chin and quick wit. 1 day suspension means you can still play in Friday's game. Yeah, but coach says I need to keep my nose clean. One more incident and I could lose my starting position. Single quotes. Mason hesitated. What about the Preston tournament? Did coach talk to you about it? He did. And, Ray thought of the offer letter sitting in his glove compartment. Catherine Palmer's words about opportunity and potential, Mason's future hanging in the balance. I'm working on it, he promised. When they arrived home, Ray's phone rang again. Westridge Academy. Donovan, he answered, bracing himself. Ray, it's Mrs. Abernathy. The English teacher's voice was hushed, urgent. Where are you? The entire maintenance staff is being questioned about the Westfield incident. What exactly happened? Tyler Westfield was ambushed in the locker room after swim practice. Black eyes, split lip. He's claiming it was professional intimidation. Related to the earlier bullying incident with Alexander Palmer, Ray's grip tightened on the phone. That's ridiculous, perhaps. But Richard Westfield is threatening to sue the school unless they identify the culprit. He's convinced it's connected to Catherine Palmer somehow. Ray thought of Catherine in her glass office, orchestrating corporate strategy with clinical precision. Would she arrange something like this? The idea seemed absurd, yet he barely knew her. What does Alexander say? He wasn't even at school today, a doctor's appointment, but the timing is suspicious. Coming right after Tyler's return from suspension. Mrs. Abernathy paused. Ray, if you don't show up, Stellar Services says you're terminated. But something feels off about this whole situation. After ending the call, Ray sat in silence, weighing his options. Going back to Westridge meant protecting his current job, but potentially being drawn into a political firestorm between powerful families. Staying away meant burning a bridge, but perhaps building a new one with Palmer Innovations. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Asterisk, Mr. Donovan, this is Catherine Palmer. Alex mentioned you might be facing difficulty at Westridge today. Please call me at your convenience. Asterisk. Ray stared at the message. How did she know about the situation? How did she get his personal number? He dialed, and she answered immediately. Ms. Palmer, he began carefully. How did you know about Westridge? I make it my business to know about potential complications, she replied. The Westfields are attempting to create a narrative that I orchestrated some sort of revenge against their son. It's absurd, but they're looking for scapegoats. And you think they'll target me? You're the most visible connection between Alex and the school security protocols. If you return, they'll likely pressure you to implicate me somehow. Ray considered this. Did you have anything to do with what happened to Tyler? There was a pause. No, Mr. Donovan. I don't operate that way. But teenage boys have their own justice system, and Tyler has made numerous enemies. Something in her tone rang true. Why are you calling to warn me? Because you're being presented with a false choice. Sacrifice your current job or become collateral damage in a vendetta against me. I'm offering a third option, the security analyst position. Yes, if you're ready to accept. Ray thought of Mason's tournament registration sitting on the kitchen table, of the suspension that would go on his permanent record, of the opportunity that could change both their lives. I need to speak with my son first, Ray said finally. Of course. Family comes first. Catherine's voice softened slightly. The position will remain open until Monday, regardless of what happens at Westridge. After hanging up, Ray found Mason at the kitchen table, researching colleges on their old laptop. Duke has the best basketball program, but their academic scholarships are almost impossible to get, Mason was saying, pointing at the screen. UNC has better financial aid options, but their acceptance rate is... He looked up, noticing his father's expression. What's wrong? Ray sat down across from him. I need to make a decision about that job offer. It would mean leaving Westridge, immediately burning that bridge completely. Mason closed the laptop. Is this about me getting suspended? No. It's about the Westfield family trying to cause trouble, and about us needing to make changes. Ray took a deep breath. The new job pays more than triple what I'm making now. Benefits, retirement plan, the works. Mason's eyes widened. Triple? It would mean new opportunities for you, better neighborhood, better school district, maybe even private coaching for basketball. Ray met his son's gaze. But it's also a risk, leaving the stability we have for something unknown. Is that why you've been hesitating? Because it's unknown? Ray nodded slowly. After your mom died, I promised myself I'd create stability for you. No surprises, no uncertainties. And you did that, Dad. You've worked yourself to exhaustion for 3 years making sure we survive. Mason leaned forward. But maybe it's time to do more than just survive. The simple wisdom in his son's words struck Ray profoundly. When had Mason grown so insightful? There's the Preston tournament registration, Ray admitted. Coach found a partial scholarship, but we still need 150 by tomorrow. And if you take this job, we could afford it. That and a lot more, Dot. Single quotes, Mason's expression grew serious. Then what are you waiting for? Call her back. Ray studied his son. This remarkable young man who had weathered loss and hardship with grace beyond his years. When did you get so smart? Must have inherited it from Mom, Mason replied with a small smile. Ray pulled out his phone and dialed Catherine again. Ms. Palmer, I've made my decision. I'd like to accept the position. He paused, glancing at Mason. But I need to start on Monday. Not immediately. I have a commitment to my son this weekend that I won't break. Of course, Catherine replied, a note of approval in her voice. Family commitments are non-negotiable. I'll have HR prepare the paperwork. She hesitated, then added, for what it's worth, Donovan, I believe you're making the right choice. For both of you. As Ray hung up, the weight that had been pressing on his shoulders for years seemed to lighten. The path ahead was uncertain, yes, but for the first time since Angela's death, uncertainty felt like possibility rather than threat. So, Mason said, breaking the silence, does this mean I can get new basketball shoes? Ray laughed, the sound rusty but genuine. Yes, it does. And that tournament registration? Consider it done. That night, as Mason slept, Ray stood at their apartment window, looking out at the distant glow of Palmer Tower on the city's skyline. Tomorrow, he would officially terminate his position with Stellar Services. Tomorrow, he would register Mason for the Preston invitation. Tomorrow, they would take their first step toward a future neither of them could fully imagine. A future built not on the safety of limitation, but on the risk of possibility. Ray spent Friday night in the bleachers, watching Mason score 22 points against their district rivals. The way his son moved on the court, confident, focused, alive, filled Ray with a pride so fierce it almost hurt. Coach Winters caught his eye several times from the sidelines, each glance conveying the same message. Asterisk, see what I've been telling you? Division I potential. Asterisk after the game. Ray handed Coach Winters an envelope containing the tournament registration fee, the money withdrawn from the emergency fund he'd been slowly building since Angela's death. He's registered, Ray said simply. Winters nodded, understanding the sacrifice behind those two words. He won't waste the opportunity. The weekend passed in a blur of preparation. Ray formally resigned from Stellar Services, ignoring the supervisor's threats and accusations. He helped Mason with a history project due the following week. They bought new basketball shoes, not the flashiest brand, but sturdy and supportive. On Sunday evening, they packed lunches for the next day, an old routine that suddenly felt temporary. Nervous about tomorrow? Mason asked as they cleaned the kitchen. Terrified, Ray admitted with a half smile. Been mopping floors for so long, I'm not sure I remember how to do anything else. Mason bumped his shoulder. You'll crush it, Ms. Palmer wouldn't have hired you if she didn't think you could do it. As they prepared for bed, Ray's phone pinged with a text from Catherine. Asterisk, security clearance and building access have been arranged. Report to 62nd floor, 8:30 a.m. Marcus Delgado, head of security, will handle your orientation. Business casual attire is fine. Looking forward to having you on the team. Asterisk, Monday morning, Ray stood before the bathroom mirror in khaki slacks and a blue button-down shirt Angela had given him years ago. He'd lost weight since then. The combined effects of grief and overwork, but the shirt still carried her memory in every thread. Looking sharp, Dad, Mason said from the doorway, already dressed for school. They drove together, dropping Mason at Eastside before continuing to Palmer Tower. The morning traffic was the same as always, but Ray's perspective had shifted. Yesterday, he'd been a janitor rushing to clock in on time. Today, he was a security systems analyst headed to his first day at a billion-dollar tech company. The absurdity of it made him laugh out loud. At 8:25, Ray entered Palmer Tower, receiving a visitor badge from security. The guard directed him to a specific elevator that required keycard access for the executive floors. Donovan, right? The guard said, swiping his own card to grant Ray access. Mr. Delgado's expecting you. Marcus Delgado was waiting when the elevator doors opened on the 62nd floor. Mid-50s, with a military bearing and assessing eyes, he extended a hand to Ray. Welcome to Palmer Innovations, Delgado said, his grip firm. Catherine speaks highly of you. She's taking a chance on me, Ray replied honestly. Delgado's expression remained neutral. Catherine Palmer doesn't take chances, Mr. Donovan. She makes calculated investments. He gestured for Ray to follow. Let's get you set up. Ray's new workspace was a modest office with a window overlooking the city. A sleek laptop sat on the desk alongside a company phone and badge. Security protocols are on the server, Delgado explained, pointing to a digital folder on the laptop screen. Building schematics, access points, current procedures, familiarize yourself with all of it. For the first week, you'll shadow different security team members to understand our operations. And after that? Ray asked. After that, you tell me where we're vulnerable. Delgado's expression hardened slightly. We've had incidents, proprietary information leak, unauthorized access attempts. Catherine believes you'll see things differently than my traditional security personnel. Because I was a janitor. Because you notice what others miss. Delgado checked his watch. Orientation with HR is at 10. Until then, review these files and start thinking about how you'd breach this building if you wanted to. Left alone in his office, Ray felt momentarily overwhelmed. The laptop's screen glowed with information complex security protocols, architectural blueprints, personnel files, a world away from mop buckets and floor wax. He took a deep breath and began reading. By lunchtime, Ray's head was swimming with information badge encryption protocols, biometric access points, surveillance system blind spots. HR orientation had been equally overwhelming. Benefits packages, retirement plans, health insurance options that actually covered preventative care. How's it going? Ray looked up to see Catherine standing in his doorway, as impeccably dressed as ever in a charcoal pantsuit. It's a lot, he admitted. She smiled slightly. First days always are. Walk with me? They took the elevator to the 60th floor, which housed a company cafeteria with panoramic views. As they collected salads from a food bar that rivaled high-end restaurants, Ray noticed heads turning in their direction, causing a stir, he observed quietly. People are curious, Catherine replied, leading him to a quiet table in the corner. It's not often I personally recruit someone without traditional credentials. You're not making my integration. Perhaps not, she conceded, but I'd rather they wonder about you than underestimate. As they ate, Catherine briefed him on the company's current security concerns primarily. Industrial espionage attempts centered around their neural interface technology. The device has medical applications that could transform treatment for conditions like paralysis and epilepsy, she explained. But the military and intelligence applications are what have our competitors employing increasingly aggressive tactics. Ray considered this. Has Alex been targeted? Catherine's expression flickered briefly. What makes you ask that? He's your son. If someone wanted leverage over you or the company ... single quotes, she set down her fork. You see the angles most people miss. Yes, there have been ... incidents. Nothing overt, but concerning enough that I've enhanced his personal security. It's partly why he transferred to Westridge better security protocols than his previous school. Ray thought of Alex, already navigating the complex social dynamics of adolescence with the added burden of being a potential target. That can't be easy for him, Ray said. It's not, Catherine agreed. A rare vulnerability crossing her features. Alex resents the security measures, says they make him feel like a prisoner instead of a teenager. She looked out the window, her gaze distant. The irony is I built this company to create a better future for him. Instead, it's complicated his present. The moment of candor surprised Ray. Catherine Palmer was revealing a side of herself few probably witnessed, not the CEO, but the mother, carrying the weight of choices that affected her son. Their conversation was interrupted by Catherine's phone. She checked it, her expression shifting to concern. I need to take this, she said, standing abruptly. Delgado will continue your orientation this afternoon. After she left, Ray remained at the table, watching the complex social ecosystem of Palmer innovations unfold around him. Groups clustered by department engaged in animated discussions about projects and deadlines. It reminded him of the Westridge cafeteria, different tribes, different territories, but the same human dynamics. Ray was returning his tray when he noticed Alex sitting alone at a table near the windows, focused on a textbook. Shouldn't you be in school? Ray asked, approaching the table. Alex looked up, surprise giving way to recognition. Half day, teacher development. He closed his book. Mom said you started today. How's it going? Still figuring out which end is up, Ray admitted, taking a seat. You come here often? Sometimes, when Mom's working late. Alex gestured to the building across the street. I go to the lab over there after school sometimes. They have an engineering mentorship program. Ray studied the boy, brilliant, privileged, and yet somehow lonely. Your mom mentioned there have been security concerns. About you, Alex's expression hardened. She told you about that, just that there have been incidents? Nothing specific. It's stupid, Alex muttered. One weird email and suddenly I need a security detail to go to the move. He shook his head. Meanwhile, Tyler Westfield gets his face rearranged at school, and everyone acts like it's some massive conspiracy. Ray's attention sharpened. You know something about what happened to Tyler? Alex shrugged too casually. Just that he's made a lot of enemies. Not just me, but you have an idea who was responsible, maybe. Alex met Ray's gaze directly. But I'm not going to say anything because whoever did it was just balancing the scales. Tyler's been terrorizing kids for years, and the school never did anything until my mom got involved. Before Ray could respond, Catherine appeared at their table. Alex, I didn't know you were here. She rested a hand briefly on her son's shoulder, a gesture he neither leaned into nor pulled away from. I have meetings until 6, but we could have dinner after if you'd like. Can't. Lab project due tomorrow. Alex gathered his books. I should get back anyway. They're expecting me. After he left, Catherine sighed. 2 conversations in one day. That's a record lately. Teenagers, Ray said simply. She glanced at her watch. I should let you get back to your orientation. Just wanted to check how things were going. It's a steep learning curve, Ray admitted, but I'm climbing it. Catherine nodded approvingly. That's all I ask. She turned to leave, then paused. By the way, how was Mason's game on Friday? Question caught Ray off guard. They won. Mason scored 22 points. Impressive. Alex mentioned he's quite talented. He works hard at it. Catherine smiled slightly. Another quality that seems to run in your family. She gestured toward Delgado, who was waiting by the elevator. Your next meeting awaits. We'll talk soon, Mr. Donovan. As Ray followed Delgado to his afternoon orientation sessions, his mind kept returning to his conversations with Catherine and Alex. Behind the corporate hierarchy and security protocols lay something more complicated. A mother and son navigating their own fragile relationship, a CEO protecting both her company and her family, and somewhere in the background, the Westfield situation continued to simmer. A reminder that privilege and power created their own kind of vulnerability. By the time Ray left Palmer Tower that evening, his head was buzzing with new information, new responsibilities, new possibilities. He checked his phone to find a text from Mason. Asterisk, how was day 1? Did you fire anyone yet? Asterisk, Ray smiled as he typed back. Asterisk, still learning where the bathrooms are. How was school? Asterisks. Asterisk, boring. Coach wants to talk to you about Preston. The scouts from Duke are definitely coming. Asterisk, as Ray drove home, the city transforming from daytime efficiency to evening glow. He thought about the strange parallel paths he and Catherine Palmer were walking. 2 single parents trying to protect their children while building something sustainable for their futures. The difference was Catherine had built an empire. Ray was just trying to find his footing on the first floor. By Friday of Ray's first week at Palmer Innovations, he had developed a routine. He rose at 5:30 a.m. to make breakfast for Mason, drove him to early basketball practice, then navigated downtown traffic to Palmer Tower. He'd spent each day shadowing different security team members, absorbing protocols and procedures while making mental notes of vulnerabilities no one else seemed to notice. The job itself was challenging but stimulating. For the first time in years, Ray felt his mind fully engaged, his observations valued rather than ignored. His co-workers had been skeptical at first. The janitor, Catherine Palmer, had personally hired, but his practical insights and lack of pretension were gradually winning them over. You're seeing things differently, Delgado had remarked after Ray pointed out how the receptionist's monitor angle allowed anyone standing at the desk to view sensitive information. That's exactly what we need. Ray's personal life was transforming too. He'd received his first paycheck deposited into an account with more money than he'd seen in years. They'd scheduled a weekend to look at apartments in better neighborhoods. Mason's coach had arranged for a private basketball training session with a former NBA player who worked with elite high school prospects. Yet beneath the positive changes lurked unease. News reports mentioned Richard Westfield publicly criticizing Westridge Academy's handling of the assault on his son, with veiled references to certain influential families receiving preferential treatment. Catherine hadn't mentioned the situation again, but Ray noticed increased security around Alex, including a plainclothes guard who discreetly followed the boy to his after-school program. On Friday afternoon, Ray was reviewing building schematics when his office phone rang. Mr. Donovan, Catherine Palmer would like to see you in her office, her assistant's voice informed him. Catherine was standing at her window when Ray entered, gazing out at the city below. She turned as the door closed, her expression unreadable. Have a seat, Ray, she said, gesturing to the chairs arranged around a small conference table rather than across from her desk. The shift to his first name and the less formal seating arrangement put him immediately on alert. Is something wrong? He asked as they sat. Not wrong exactly, but potentially concerning. Catherine slid a tablet across the table. On the screen was a Westridge Academy internal email about increased security measures for their upcoming spring gala, an annual fundraising event. The Westfield situation has escalated, Catherine explained. Richard has convinced several board members that the attack on Tyler was orchestrated as revenge for the bullying incident with Alex. He's implying I was involved. Ray studied the email. And you think this could affect Alex? I know it will. Catherine's composure slipped slightly, revealing the worry beneath. Richard Westfield holds grudges. Tyler has already made comments to classmates about making the Palmer kid pay. The school is caught in the middle of what's becoming a personal vendetta. Have you spoken to Alex about this? I've tried. He insists he can handle it. Catherine's frustration was evident. He doesn't want more security, doesn't want to change schools again. He says making him leave would be letting the bullies win. Ray thought of Mason's bruised knuckles after defending their family's honor. He's not entirely wrong, perhaps not, but I'm not willing to risk his safety to prove a point. Catherine leaned forward. This is where you come in. Me? The spring gala is next Saturday. All families are expected to attend, especially board members and major donors, which unfortunately includes both the Palmers and the Westfields. She tapped the tablet. Given your familiarity with Westridge's security protocols in your new role here. I'd like you to review their security arrangements for the event. Ray raised an eyebrow. If you want me to consult on private school party planning, I want you to ensure my son will be safe in an environment where multiple people may wish him harm, Catherine countered, her tone sharpening. And yes, I'm aware of the irony in asking my security analyst to moonlight at a prep school fundraiser. The flash of vulnerability beneath her professional demeanor reminded Ray that beneath the CEO exterior was a mother worried about her child. It was a feeling he understood all too well. I'll review their protocols. Agreed. But if I'm attending, it would be better if I brought someone who won't draw attention. Catherine tilted her head slightly. What did you have in mind? My son has his tournament this weekend. If he plays well and he will call it, scouts will be watching him at future games, including the ones from Westridge. Understanding dawned in Catherine's eyes. You want Mason to accompany you? As a prospective student. Westridge has an excellent basketball program, Ray said neutrally. We would simply be touring the facilities during the gala. No one would question our presence. Catherine studied him for a long moment. You're using my request to create an opportunity for your son. I'm solving two problems at once, Ray corrected. Mason's presence gives me a natural cover to move throughout the campus without raising suspicion, while introducing him to resources that could benefit his future. A slow smile spread across Catherine's face. Impressive, Mr. Donovan. 1 week at Palmer Innovations and you're already thinking like an executive, she nodded. I'll arrange for guest passes, business casual attire for both of you. As Ray stood to leave, Catherine added, there's one more thing you should know. Alex believes he knows who attacked Tyler Westfield. Ray paused. Did he tell you who? No, but he implied it was other students who had been Tyler's victims in the past. Sort of ... collective retribution. Her expression grew troubled. He seems to view it as justified. And you're concerned about the moral message that sends? I'm concerned about my son's changing perspective on conflict resolution, Catherine clarified. And I'm concerned that Richard Westfield won't stop until someone pays for what happened to Tyler, regardless of who was actually responsible. Ray thought of his conversation with Alex in the cafeteria, the boy's careful phrasing and obvious knowledge of the situation. I'll keep an eye on things at the gala. And on Alex. Thank you, Catherine said, the two simple words carrying unexpected weight. That evening, Ray and Mason celebrated the end of Ray's first week with takeout from their favorite burger place, a tradition that predated Angela's illness, one of the few that had survived the financial constraints of the past 3 years. So now you're going to be doing security for fancy private school parties? Mesa asked, amused by the assignment. Does that mean I get to go too? Actually, yes, Ray replied, explaining the plan for Mason to accompany him as a prospective student. It's a good opportunity to see the campus, meet the basketball coach. Mason set down his burger, suddenly serious. Dad, I can't go to Westridge. Even with your new job, that tuition is insane. It's not about enrolling you right now, Ray clarified. It's about making connections. The coach there has direct lines to college recruiters, and the academic resources could help with your SAT prep, so I'm just supposed to pretend I might go there someday? You're supposed to keep your options open, Ray countered. Catherine Palmer started with nothing and built a billion-dollar company. Her son goes to Westridge because she refused to accept limitation. Mason considered this. You really respect her, don't you? Question caught Ray off guard. She's a remarkable businesswoman. That's not what I asked. Ray took a moment before answering. Yes, I respect her. She's brilliant, driven, and cares deeply about her son, even when he makes it difficult. He shrugged. She's also my boss, so there's that. Single quotes. Mason smirked. Hung? What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, Mason replied innocently. Just interesting how you talk about her. That's all. Bod. Respond. Mason's phone buzzed with a text. His expression brightened as he read it. Coach says a scout from North Carolina is confirmed for the tournament tomorrow. Dad, this is huge. The conversation shifted to tournament preparations, but Ray found himself thinking about Mason's observation. Did he speak differently about Catherine? She was his employer, business associate. Yet there was something undeniably intriguing about her intelligence, her fierce protection of her son, the glimpses of vulnerability beneath her polished exterior. Later that night, as Ray reviewed the security protocols for the Westridge Spring Gala, his phone pinged with a text from Catherine. Asterisk, just confirmed your guest passes for the gala. Alex mentioned Mason's tournament is tomorrow. Wishing him good luck. Keep me posted on how he does. Asterisk. Ray stared at the message. Professional yet personal, maintaining appropriate boundaries while expressing genuine interest. He typed back, asterisk, thank you. He's nervous but ready. We'll let you know how it goes. Asterisk. As he set his phone down, Ray reflected on the strange path that had led him here, from mopping floors to providing security consultation, from struggling to pay Mason's basketball fees to introducing him to elite college scouts, all because he'd stepped between a bully and his target one ordinary afternoon. The next morning, as they drove to the Preston Invitational, Mason was uncharacteristically quiet. Nervous? Ray asked. A little, Mason admitted. There's going to be actual college scouts there, Dad. Like, people who could change everything for us. For you, Ray corrected gently. This is about your future, not mine. Our future, Mason insisted. Everything you've done, the extra jobs, taking this new position, all of it has been for us. If I get a scholarship, that's a win for both of us. Ray reached over and squeezed his son's shoulder, throat suddenly tight. When had his boy become so aware, so thoughtful? As they pulled into the parking lot of the sprawling sports complex, Ray spotted Coach Winters waiting by the entrance. Beside him stood a tall man in a North Carolina polo shirt, clipboard in hand. "Ready?" Ray asked. Mason took a deep breath, shoulders squaring with determination. Ready. The Preston Invitational was held in a state-of-the-art sports complex normally reserved for collegiate tournaments. 8 high school teams from across the state had qualified, each showcasing their top talent for the college scouts scattered throughout the stands. Ray sat on the bleachers, program clutched in his hand, watching Mason warm up with his team. The North Carolina scout introduced to them earlier as Coach Harris was seated nearby, making notes on a clipboard each time Mason touched the ball. "He's got good court awareness," a voice remarked beside Ray. He turned to find Coach Winters settling in next to him. Rare quality in players his age. Ray nodded, anxiety making it difficult to speak. This tournament represented everything they'd been working toward. Mason's chance to be seen, to prove his potential extended beyond their limited circumstances. "Just breathe, Ray," Winters advised with a knowing smile. "He's ready for this." When the game began, Mason started at point guard. His first few possessions were tentative, a missed shot, a slightly off-target pass. Ray could read the nervousness in his son's movements, the weight of opportunity pressing down on his shoulders. Then, midway through the first quarter, something shifted. Mason intercepted a pass, drove the length of the court, and finished with a smooth layup. The tension in his body released, replaced by the fluid confidence Ray had seen countless times on their neighborhood court. From that moment on, Mason played with joyful precision, threading passes through impossible gaps, anticipating defensive shifts before they happened, hitting 3 crucial three-pointers that kept the game within reach. By the fourth quarter, Eastside was down by 2 points with 30 seconds remaining. Coach Winters called a timeout, drawing up a play with Mason as the primary option. As the teams returned to the court, Ray found himself unable to sit. He stood at the edge of the bleachers, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles whitened. Mason received the inbound pass, dribbling calmly against pressure. With 5 seconds left, he executed a perfect crossover that created just enough space for a pull-up jumper from 17 feet. The ball arced through the air, time seeming to slow as it descended toward the rim. Swish. The buzzer sounded. Tie game. Overtime. During the brief break, Ray noticed Coach Harris leaning toward another scout, pointing at Mason while nodding emphatically. Eastside rode the momentum into overtime, with Mason orchestrating their offense with veteran poise. When the final buzzer sounded, they had secured a 3-point victory, advancing to the tournament semifinals the next day. As the team celebrated, Coach Harris approached Ray. "Mr. Donovan, your son has impressive game intelligence," he said, extending a business card. "We'd like to see more of him. The summer showcase at Chapel Hill Mason should attend." Ray accepted the card, speechless at what it represented. "Thank you. We'll be there." Coach Winters joined them, beaming. "Told you he'd catch their eye." After the team dispersed for a brief rest before their second game, Mason found Ray in the hallway, eyes bright with adrenaline. "Dad, did you see Coach Harris talking to that Duke guy? They were both watching me." Ray pulled him into a fierce hug. "You were incredible out there, just like we always knew you could be." As Mason headed to the locker room to hydrate and rest, Ray pulled out his phone, surprised to find 3 text messages from Catherine. Asterisk, "How's the tournament going?" Asterisk, Alex is asking about Mason's game. "Any updates?" Asterisk, "Sorry to bother you on the weekend. Just genuinely interested." Asterisk. The progression of messages, growing slightly more personal with each one, made Ray smile. He typed back, Asterisk, "Mason just led his team to victory in the first game, hitting the game-tying shot at the buzzer. North Carolina scout wants him at their summer showcase." Asterisk. Catherine's response came quickly. Asterisk. "That's fantastic. Alex will be thrilled to hear it. He's been surprisingly invested since I mentioned Mason plays basketball." Asterisk. Ray hesitated, then added, Asterisk, "Second game is at 3 p.m. if you and Alex wanted to stop by. Mason would probably appreciate the support." Asterisk. The invitation surprised even himself. It had been just Ray and Mason for so long that including others in their rituals felt foreign. But something about Catherine and Alex's interests seemed genuine, unconnected to workplace hierarchies or social obligations. Catherine's reply came as Mason emerged from the locker room. Asterisk. "Unfortunately, Alex has a science competition this afternoon, but we'd love to hear how it goes. Perhaps dinner to celebrate afterward?" "My treat." Asterisk. Ray showed the message to Mason, whose eyebrows rose. "Dinner with the Palmers? Like, at a fancy restaurant?" "We don't have to," Ray said quickly. "It's been a long day already. Are you kidding? If we win this next game, I'll be too pumped to just go home anyway." Mason grinned. "Plus, I want to meet this CEO who has you checking your phone every 5 minutes." "I do not check," Ray began, then caught himself at Mason's knowing look. "It's a professional courtesy. She's my boss." "Sure, Dad. Whatever you say." The second game proved even more dramatic than the first. Mason's performance was electric. 27 points, 8 assists, and a defensive play in the final minute that sealed Eastside's victory. Coach Harris wasn't the only scout taking notes this time. 3 others had joined him, all watching Mason with keen interest. By the time they left the sports complex, Ray's phone contained 5 business cards from college recruiters and an invitation for Mason to attend an elite summer training camp, the kind of opportunity that could transform a promising talent into a legitimate prospect. "I can't believe this is happening," Mason said as they drove toward the upscale restaurant Catherine had suggested. "Is this real, Dad?" It's real, Ray assured, and you earned every bit of it. We earned it, Mason corrected. I wouldn't be here without you. The restaurant was situated in the downtown arts district, elegant without being pretentious, with warm lighting and comfortable seating. Catherine and Alex were already waiting when they arrived, seated at a corner table with a view of the city. Catherine rose to greet them, dressed more casually than Ray had ever seen her in dark jeans and a simple blue blouse. Congratulations on your victories today. Alex has been following the tournament updates online. Alex nodded, offering Mason a fist bump. 27 points in the second game? That's insane. Mason bumped fists, his exhaustion momentarily forgotten in the excitement of recounting the day's highlights. As the boys fell into easy conversation about basketball statistics and college recruitment, Ray found himself studying Catherine in this new context. Attentive, genuinely interested in their accomplishment. Thank you for suggesting this, he said as they scanned their menus. It's been a while since we celebrated anything. Catherine smiled, the expression warming her usually reserved features. Success should be acknowledged, especially when it's well-earned. She glanced at their sons, now debating the merits of different college basketball programs. They seem to be getting along. Mason doesn't have many friends who understand the academic pressure he's under, Ray observed. Most kids at Eastside aren't thinking about college recruiters and SAT scores. And Alex doesn't have many friends who aren't intimidated by his last name, Catherine replied. It's refreshing to see him just being a teenager. Throughout dinner, Ray noticed how Catherine subtly drew Mason into conversation, asking insightful questions about his basketball aspirations and academic interests. She listened to his answers with the same focused attention she gave to corporate presentations, making mental connections that revealed her analytical mind. Have you considered engineering? She asked after Mason mentioned his interest in mathematics. Palmer Innovations has an internship program for high school students with mathematical aptitude. The stipend is competitive, and it looks impressive on college applications. Mason's eyes widened. Seriously? That would be amazing. I'll send your father the details, Catherine promised, catching Ray's grateful glance. As they finished dessert, Alex turned to Mason. Are you coming to the spring gala next weekend? Yeah, Dad and I are going to check out the school facilities, Mason replied. Is it as stuffy as it sounds? Alex rolled his eyes. Worse. Rich parents pretending to care about education while networking for business deals. He glanced at his mother. No offense. None taken, Catherine replied dryly. It's an accurate assessment. The Westfields will be there, Alex added, his tone darkening slightly. Tyler's been weird since he came back to school. Quieter. Keeps looking at me like he's waiting for something. Catherine's posture tensed almost imperceptibly. Has he said anything to you? Not directly, but his friends have been spreading rumors that Mom hired someone to rough him up. Alex's gaze flicked briefly to Ray. Ridiculous. Obviously. Ray studied the boy, noting the careful phrasing and averted eyes. Alex knew more than he was saying, just as he had during their cafeteria conversation. Well, I'll be there keeping an eye on things, Ray said casually. Part of the job. Our own personal security detail, Alex joked, though something in his expression suggested relief. As they prepared to leave, Catherine pulled Ray aside while the boys discussed the tournament semifinals scheduled for the next morning. There's something you should know before the gala, she said, her voice low. Richard Westfield has been making inquiries about you. Your employment history, your connection to me, your sudden departure from Westridge. Ray frowned. Why would he care about me? Because you're the link between Alex's bullying incident and Tyler's assault. In his mind, you're either a witness who can implicate me or a co-conspirator. Catherine's expression was grave. Be careful at the gala. The Westfields are influential in ways that extend beyond school politics. I can handle Richard West, Ray replied, thinking of the countless wealthy parents who had barely acknowledged his existence during his years at West. I'm sure you can, Catherine agreed, but I'd prefer you didn't have to. Her hand briefly touched his arm, a gesture so subtle it might have been accidental. You and Mason have momentum now. I'd hate to see that disrupted, as they said their goodbyes in the restaurant parking lot. Mason and Alex exchanged phone numbers, a simple act of teenage friendship that somehow felt significant given the different worlds they inhabited. Driving home, Ray glanced at his son, who was scrolling through tournament photos on social media, a contented smile on his face. Good day? Ray asked. The best, Mason replied, looking up with eyes bright with possibility. Feels like everything's changing, doesn't it? Ray nodded, thinking of Catherine's warning about Richard Westfield, of the spring gala where their fragile new beginning would intersect with powerful forces already in motion. Everything's changing, he agreed. Let's just make sure it's changing for the better. The Westridge Academy Spring Gala transformed the school's austere campus into a glittering showcase of wealth and influence. Twinkling lights adorned the century-old oak trees lining the quad, while inside the historic Founders Hall, ice sculptures and elaborate floral arrangements created an atmosphere of cultivated elegance. Ray felt the strangeness of his return as he and Mason passed through the main gates, guest passes prominently displayed. Just weeks ago, he'd walked these grounds in a janitor's uniform, invisible to the very people who now nodded politely as they passed. This place is insane, Mason whispered, taking in the manicured lawns and Gothic architecture. He wore his best dress shirt and slacks, New purchases made possible by Ray's Palmer Innovations salary. People actually go to school here? Some do, Ray replied, scanning the crowd with practiced subtlety. He'd spent the week reviewing security protocols for the event, identifying potential vulnerabilities in guest registration, catering staff vetting, and access points to restricted areas. Delgado had been impressed with his assessment, incorporating several of his recommendations into the evening's security plan. Inside Founders Hall, the transformation was even more dramatic. The normally austere space glowed with warm lighting and elegant decor. A string quartet played in one corner while formally dressed waitstaff circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. "Mr. Donovan, welcome." Headmaster Phillips approached with a practiced smile. His eyes revealed surprise at Ray's presence as a guest rather than staff. "And this must be your son," Mason Ray confirmed. "He's interested in touring the athletic facilities. Coach Winters at Eastside speaks highly of your basketball program. Single quotes. Phillips brightened at the mention of a potential recruit. "Of course, I'll arrange for Coach Brennan to give you both a tour later this evening. Meanwhile, please enjoy the gala." As Phillips moved on to greet other guests, Ray noticed Catherine and Alex entering the hall. Catherine wore a midnight blue gown that managed to be both elegant and understated, while Alex looked uncomfortable but polished in his formal attire. Mason waved, catching Alex's attention. The boys gravitated toward each other, immediately falling into conversation about Mason's tournament semifinal win that morning. "You played in a championship game this morning and now you're at a formal gala?" Alex asked, clearly impressed. "Talk about range. Trust me, I'd rather be in basketball shorts," Mason replied with a grin. "But Dad said there might be college coaches here too, so ... single quotes." He shrugged, the gesture conveying his willingness to endure formal events for his future. As the boys drifted toward the refreshment table, Catherine approached Ray, her expression composed but her eyes alert. "Security assessment?" she asked quietly. "Better than I expected," Ray replied. "They've implemented most of my recommendations. Additional personnel at all entrances, proper ID verification, restricted access to the academic building." Catherine nodded, her gaze scanning the room. "The Westfields haven't arrived yet. Richard always makes a point of being fashionably late." They moved together toward a less crowded area near one of the tall windows overlooking the illuminated quad. Standing side by side, they presented the image of casual acquaintances making small talk, though their conversation was anything but casual. "Alex seems more relaxed with Mason," Catherine observed. "He's been on edge all week about tonight." "Mason too," Ray admitted, though for different reasons. "He's never been in a setting like this before. He carries himself well," Catherine noted, watching the boys across the room. "Confident but not arrogant. That's rare in young men his age." "He's had to grow up faster than most," Ray said, a hint of regret coloring his words. Catherine turned to study him, her expression softening slightly. "You've done an extraordinary job with him, Ray. Don't discount that accomplishment." Before Ray could respond, a subtle shift in the room's energy caught his attention. Conversations quieted momentarily as a new group entered. Richard Westfield, imposing in an expensive tuxedo, his wife Victoria elegant beside him, and Tyler trailing behind, his recently bruised face now carefully concealed beneath expert makeup. "Game faces on," Catherine murmured, straightening imperceptibly. Ray watched the Westfields work the room with practiced charm, Richard clapping backs and kissing cheeks, Victoria complimenting outfits and inquiring about vacation home. It was a masterclass in social networking, each interaction calculated to reinforce their status within the Westridge hierarchy. Then Richard spotted Catherine, and his genial expression hardened almost imperceptibly. "Catherine," he said, approaching with forced cordiality, "Victoria and I were just discussing your company's recent FDA approval. Quite an achievement." "Thank you, Richard," Catherine replied, her tone professionally pleasant. "The neural interface technology has promising applications for paralysis patients." "Indeed." His gaze shifted to Ray, eyes narrowing slightly. "And you must be the new ... security consultant I've heard about. Donovan, isn't it?" Ray extended his hand, meeting the older man's calculating stare. "That's right, Ray Donovan. Interesting career transition," Westfield remarked, his handshake firm but brief. "From school maintenance to corporate security. Quite the leap. I've found Mr. Donovan's perspective invaluable." Catherine interjected smoothly. "He sees vulnerabilities others miss, I'm sure he does," Westfield replied, the comment hovering between compliment and accusation. "Victoria, darling, why don't you check on Tyler? I believe he was headed toward the library." As his wife departed, Westfield's demeanor chilled further. "Speaking of vulnerabilities, Catherine, my attorneys are concerned about the school's liability in recent incidents. They feel Westridge failed to adequately protect students, including my son, from what appears to be orchestrated harassment." Catherine's expression remained neutral, though Ray detected the slight tension in her shoulders. "I'm sorry to hear Tyler is still having difficulties. Perhaps the school counselor could recommend resources for him." Westfield's jaw tightened. "Tyler doesn't need counseling. He needs justice. Someone arranged for my son to be assaulted and there have been no consequences." "The school conducted a thorough investigation," Catherine reminded him. "No evidence was found linking any specific student to the incident." "Convenient," Westfield replied coldly. His gaze shifted back to Ray. "Though I find it interesting that the one adult who witnessed the initial conflict between our sons has suddenly been elevated to your inner circle, Catherine. Some might call that ... suspicious timing." Ray felt a flash of anger but kept his expression neutral. Mr. Westfield, with all due respect, I stepped in because no one else was willing to address the bullying happening in those hallways, including faculty who witnessed it firsthand. Westfield's eyes narrowed. Careful, Donovan. Your new position doesn't grant you immunity from scrutiny. I have friends in positions that could make life very difficult for a man with your limited background. Is that a threat, Richard? Catherine asked, her voice dropping to a dangerous octave. Simply an observation, Westfield replied with a cold smile. Now, if you'll excuse me, I should check on my family. He nodded curtly and departed, leaving a chill in his wake. He's more desperate than I thought, Catherine murmured, watching Westfield's retreating form. Making thinly veiled threats in public isn't his usual style. Ray scanned the room, locating Mason and Alex now talking with a small group of students. Tyler Westfield had emerged from the library wing, his mother hovering protectively nearby. I should check the other buildings, Ray said. The security team is focused on Founders Hall, but the academic wings are more vulnerable. Catherine nodded. I'll keep an eye on the boys. She touched his arm briefly. Be careful, Ray. Richard doesn't make idle threats. The campus was eerily quiet away from the gala, the academic buildings dark except for security lighting. Ray moved through the shadows with purpose, checking doors that should be locked, windows that should be secured. He was examining a propped-open door near the science building when his phone vibrated with a text from Catherine. * Tyler just approached Alex. Conversations seemed tense. Now both boys are gone from the hall. Mason is looking for them. * Ray texted back quickly. * Where? *. Mason thinks they went toward the athletic center. I'm on my way there now. Ray redirected his path, cutting across the darkened quad toward the modern complex that housed Westridge's state-of-the-art sports facilities. As he approached, he spotted Mason jogging toward him from another direction. Dad, Tyler took Alex to the gym, said something about finishing their discussion in private. Where's Catherine? She went to get security. I told her I'd find you first. They entered the athletic center together, the vast lobby dimly lit by emergency exit signs. From somewhere deeper in the building, they heard raised voices echoing through the corridors. Following the sound, they found themselves approaching the main gymnasium. Through the small windows and the double doors, Ray could see Alex and Tyler facing off in the center of the basketball court, surrounded by 5 other boys, all wearing the distinctive blue blazers of Westridge's senior class. Think you're untouchable because of your mother, Tyler was saying, his voice tight with anger. You got me suspended, humiliated in front of everyone. Now it's your turn. I didn't get you suspended. Tyler, Alex replied, his voice remarkably steady despite being outnumbered. You did that yourself when you decided to target me. Bullshit. You went crying to mommy and suddenly the rules changed. Tyler stepped closer. Then your little friends jumped me in the locker room. But mommy can't protect you here. Ray assessed the situation quickly. 7 boys total, with Tyler and Alex in the center. The others, likely Tyler's friends, had formed a loose circle around them, cutting off easy escape routes. The confrontation hadn't turned physical yet, but the tension in the room suggested it was only moments away. Mason, Ray said quietly, go find Catherine and the security team. Tell them exactly where we are. What are you going to do? Mason asked, clearly concerned. My job, Ray replied simply. As Mason departed, Ray pushed through the double doors, his measured footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. All heads turned at the sound. Evening, gentlemen, he said calmly, continuing to walk toward the center of the court. Quite a location for a private conversation. Tyler's expression darkened. This doesn't concern you, Donovan, actually. It does. Ray stopped a few feet away, positioning himself slightly closer to Alex. Part of my job is making sure everyone stays safe tonight. This doesn't look very safe to me. Your job? Tyler scoffed. You're just a janitor who got lucky. My father told me all about you. Then he probably mentioned I noticed things most people miss. Ray replied evenly, like the security cameras in the corners of this gym, or the fact that threatening a fellow student while surrounded by your friends could be interpreted as premeditated assault. Several of Tyler's friends shifted uncomfortably, glancing up at the cameras. We're just talking, one of them muttered. 7 against 1 isn't a conversation, Ray countered. It's intimidation, and it stops now. Single quotes. Tyler's face flushed with anger. You don't give orders here anymore? No, came Catherine's voice from the doorway, but I believe Headmaster Phillips does. Headmaster Phillips stepped into the gymnasium behind Catherine, his usual composed demeanor replaced by cold fury. Following him were 2 security guards and Mason, who quickly moved to Ray's side. What is the meaning of this? Phillips demanded, his voice echoing through the cavernous space. Tyler and his friends exchanged nervous glances, their confidence evaporating under official scrutiny. Just a private conversation, sir, Tyler attempted, his tone unconvincing even to his own ears. 7 against 1 is not a conversation, Mr. Westfield, Phillips replied sharply. It's intimidation at best, and at worst. He left the implication hanging in the air as he surveyed the scene. Catherine moved directly to Alex, placing a protective hand on his shoulder. Are you all right? Alex nodded, though Ray noticed the slight tremor in his hands, fear masked by determination not to show weakness. Everyone except Mr. Westfield and Mr. Palmer is dismissed, Phillips announced. "Return to the gala immediately. Your parents will be notified of this incident." As Tyler's friends filed out, casting apologetic glances at their ringleader, Phillips turned to Ray. "Mr. Donovan, thank you for your intervention. Would you and your son mind waiting outside while we address this situation?" "Actually," Catherine interjected, "I'd prefer if Mr. Donovan remained, as both a security professional and a witness to previous incidents between these students." Phillips hesitated, then nodded. "Very well. Mason, perhaps you could wait in the lobby." Once Mason had left, an uncomfortable silence settled over the gym. Tyler stood defiant but visibly nervous, while Alex remained beside his mother, composed but watchful. "Tyler," Phillips began, "this is the second serious incident involving you this semester. Would you care to explain what you hoped to accomplish by luring Alexander away from the gala?" "I wanted the truth," Tyler replied, his voice tight, "about who jumped me in the locker. I know it was Palmer's friends getting revenge." Alex shook his head. "I had nothing to do with that, Tyler." "Bullshit," Tyler snapped. "Everything was fine until you showed up at Westridge. Then suddenly I'm the villain, I'm suspended, and I get attacked. All because your mother thinks she can change." "The rules didn't change, Tyler," Ray said quietly. "They just finally applied to you two." Tyler turned to him, anger flashing in his eyes. "No one asked you, Janitor." "That's enough," Phillips warned. "Smir Donovan is here at my invitation." Catherine studied Tyler with clinical precision. You're not angry about being suspended, Tyler. You're angry because for the first time you've faced consequences for your actions. That's not Alex's fault or mine. It's yours." The gym doors burst open as Richard Westfield strode in, Victoria hurrying behind him. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, unconsciously echoing the headmaster's earlier words. "Why is my son being interrogated while the gala is? Your son lured another student away from the event and surrounded him with 6 friends." Phillips explained, his tone remaining professional despite the interruption. "Had Mr. Donovan not intervened, I believe the situation would have escalated to physical violence." Richard's gaze swept the room, lingering on Ray with particular disdain. "And why is the maintenance man playing security guard?" "This is highly irregular, Phillips. Mr. Donovan is here at my request," Catherine stated firmly. "As a security consultant for Palmer Innovations and a witness to previous incidents involving your son." Consultant Richard scoffed, quote, "Let's be honest about what's happening here, Catherine. You've orchestrated this entire situation, hiring this man after he witnessed Tyler disciplining Palmer's boy, arranging for Tyler to be assaulted, and now manufacturing this incident to further damage my family's reputation." "That's absurd," Catherine replied, her voice level but eyes flashing. "Your son has a documented history of bullying, multiple incidents, multiple victims. The only difference this time is that someone finally stood up to him." Tyler's face flushed red. "I didn't do anything they couldn't handle." "Tyler." Victoria attempted to quiet her son, but he shook off her hand. "No. I'm sick of this. Palmer walks in here like he owns the place because his mom's some tech billionaire, and suddenly I'm the bad guy." His voice cracked with emotion. "It wasn't even me who hit him that day. It was Evan and Derek. I was just there." The admission hung in the air, Tyler's face registering shock at his own words. "And the locker room incident?" Ray asked quietly. "Do you know who was responsible for that?" Tyler's eyes darted away. "Jason Cooper. His little brother was one of the younger students I used to mess with. He and some guys from the lacrosse team jumped me." He swallowed hard. "It had nothing to do with Palmer." Richard stared at his son, disbelief etched across his features. "You told us Palmer orchestrated the whole thing." "It was easier than admitting how many people hate me," Tyler replied, his bravado crumbling to reveal something more vulnerable beneath. Phillips cleared his throat. "This changes the situation considerably, Mr. Westfield. I believe we should continue this discussion in my office with your parent." As security escorted the Westfield family from the gym, Alex finally spoke up. "I knew it was Jason. He told me he was going to handle Tyler, but I didn't know what he meant until after it happened." "Why didn't you say something?" Catherine asked. Alex met her gaze steadily. "Because it wasn't my place to turn him in. Not when the school did nothing while Tyler tormented him and his brother for months." Ray understood the boy's code, not snitching on someone who had sought justice the only way they felt was available to them. It wasn't right, but it was human. Catherine sighed, the tension of the evening visibly weighing on her shoulders. "We should return to the gala. There are already enough rumors circulating without our conspicuous absence fueling more." As they walked back toward Founders Hall, Mason fell into step beside them, having waited in the lobby. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Getting there," Ray replied. "The truth has a way of coming out eventually." The remainder of the evening passed without further incident. The Westfields made a quiet early departure, while Catherine maintained her composed presence, fielding curious inquiries with diplomatic vagueness. Ray continued his security observations, occasionally catching her eye across the room, a silent acknowledgement of the storm they'd weathered together. As the gala wound down, Headmaster Phillips approached Ray and Mason near the refreshment table. "Mr. Donovan, I owe you an apology," he said, his voice low. "When you reported Tyler's bullying months ago, we should have taken more decisive action. Perhaps tonight could have been avoided." "Better late than never," Ray replied, unwilling to absolve the administration too icily of their complicity through inaction. Phillips nodded, accepting the mild rebuke. Your son has impressive basketball credentials. Coach Brennan was quite taken with his tournament performance. We'd be interested in discussing scholarship options. Should you be considering Westridge for his senior year? Mason's eyes widened as Phillips handed Ray a business card before moving on to bid other guests farewell. Did he just offer me a scholarship? Mason whispered once Phillips was out of earshot. I believe he did, Ray confirmed, equally surprised, but we couldn't afford scholarship, Ray reminded. And with my new position, single quotes, he let the possibility hang between them. As they prepared to leave, Catherine and Alex met them at the entrance. Quite an evening, Catherine remarked. Thank you for your intervention, Ray. Things could have gone very differently. Just doing my job, he replied with a slight smile. Above and beyond, I'd say. Her gaze shifted to Mason. I heard Phillips discussing scholarship opportunities. Congratulations, Mason grinned. Thanks. Still processing. Dad, Alex interjected. Can Mason come over tomorrow? I want to show him the basketball court at our place. You have a court at your house? Mason asked incredulously. Half court, Alex clarified. Mom put it in last year, but I'm terrible. Could use some pointers. The boys made plans while Ray and Catherine exchanged amused glances at this newfound friendship. They're resilient, Catherine observed as they walked toward the parking area. After everything that happened tonight, they're already moving forward. That's what kids do, Ray replied. When given the chance, Catherine paused by her car, her expression thoughtful. Richard Westfield will be a problem. He doesn't accept defeat gracefully. We'll handle it, Ray said simply. That's what parents do. Something shifted in Catherine's eyes at his words, a recognition of shared purpose that transcended their different backgrounds and circumstances. Yes, she agreed softly. That's exactly what we do. 3 months later, Ray stood in the doorway of Mason's new bedroom in their apartment in the Palmer Residence Tower. The space was twice the size of his old room, with large windows overlooking the city and walls adorned with basketball, posters and college pennants from schools now actively recruiting him. Mason was packing an overnight bag, preparing to stay at the Palmers while Ray traveled to a security conference in Chicago, his first presentation as Palmer Innovation's newly promoted Director of Personnel Security. Got everything? Ray asked. Mason nodded, zipping the bag. Alex's mom said she'd help me with my application essay for Duke tonight. Catherine's good at that sort of thing. Ray agreed, still adjusting to using her first name comfortably. She also said you two are having dinner when you get back from Chicago, Mason added, a knowing smirk playing at his lips. Just the two of you. Ray felt a flush of warmth that had nothing to do with the room temperature. It's a work dinner. Sure, Dad, whatever you say. Mason shouldered his bag, then paused. Hey, do you ever think about how different everything would be if you hadn't stopped those guys from bullying Alex that day? Ray considered the question, the cascade of changes that had flowed from that one moment of intervention. Mason's basketball scholarship secured for his senior year. Ray's career transformed, their standard of living unrecognizable from just months earlier. But beyond the material improvements, there were deeper changes. The confidence in Mason's bearing, the purpose in Ray's step, the unexpected friendship between two boys from different worlds, the tentative but growing connection between two single parents who understood each other's struggles. I think, Ray said carefully, that life changes when we stop walking past things that matter. Mason nodded, understanding the deeper meaning. Mom would be proud of us, wouldn't she? She would, Ray agreed, throat tightening. She is. As they left their apartment, Ray's phone buzzed with a text from Catherine. Alex can't stop talking about the college visits you're all taking next month. Thank you for including him in this. Some journeys are better taken together. Ray smiled, typing back. Couldn't agree more. Some journeys were indeed better taken together. And theirs, it seemed, was just beginning.